They did kill him off, didn't they? They killed off the hero of the movie. They let the girl live, but they kill off the guy who's gone his whole life running away from the Sandman character. And now when they finally kill the Sandman, they also kill the guy. Come on, doesn't this violate some horror movie rule or something? You can't do that. Griffin was the main character. Megan was the girlfriend. That bothered me when he died. Sleep Stalker, okay. All right, well, Philadelphia Experiment 2 is coming up in just a minute here, but I want to remind you that next week we've got Alien 3. The insect from outer space is still out there, and he's still chomping heads on a prison planet. And we follow that up with the cult classic Barbarella. Jane Fonda as a wacky space traveler in very little clothing. What? You see, this is why I think they're out to get me here. They put this movie on my show. They know Jane doesn't like this movie, all right? They think, ha, 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 let's see Joe Bob get out of this one. They know I'm going to screw up. They know I'm going to say just one little wrong thing. Ted's going to be watching that night. Words are exchanged between Ted and Jane out at the Montana Buffalo Ranch or somewhere. Pretty soon I'm working at MSNBC interviewing animal rights advocates. You know, they set me up for this stuff. All right, well, we'll worry about that next week. But right now, let's get started on Philadelphia Experiment 2. And it's one of those time travel flicks where Brad Johnson has to travel back to 1943, which is where he started out in the first movie where the airplane disappeared, and he ended up in 1984, and now he's lived 9 years in the present time, and it's 1993. And he thinks that maybe when he came through the time and space vortex the first time, he accidentally let the Nazis grab a stealth bomber. So maybe in 1943 they used that stealth bomber to annihilate Washington, D.C., and if they did that, then America as we know it doesn't exist. Only if that's true, then how is it possible for Brad Johnson to be living in this little suburban California community where his son plays Little League? And then these evil military types start playing around with time travel and zapping Brad's DNA so that he has these bad headaches. And before you know it, he ends up in a different 1993, the one that happened after Washington got bombed. But we don't know that yet. And you see why I can't stand talking about these movies? Do you see? They give you a headache. See, and anyhow, it starts off kind of slow, but it builds up to some great scenes at the end. So let's just look at the drive-in total. Let's get it over with. 24 dead bodies, 3 raging gun battles, 1 exploding house with fireball, 1 exploding military aircraft with fireball, 2 bullets to the forehead, throat slitting, and I'm going to give it about 2.5 stars, so check it out, and then we'll be back with, we're going to have Jailbreak tonight, the mail girl will be out here again, some other cool stuff, and I just kind of gave up on that one. I had that plot going, I had it in my head, I knew where it was going, I just gave it, you see, it's this whole Barbarella stress factor. The idea that next week's second feature is just lying in wait there for me, ready to blow up in my face at any moment. Sometimes this job is like Nam, you know, it's just landmines everywhere. And there I go. I say Jane Fonda and Nam. Jane, that last remark had nothing to do with you, okay? Unrelated subject.
Back to Monstervision host Joe Bob Briggs and the Philadelphia Experiment 2 on TNT.
I don't want to say this movie is slow so far, but I've never heard so much technobabble gobbledygook in my life. Are you following this thing? Brad Johnson was a World War II soldier who was taking part in a radar experiment in 1943, and he got zapped forward to 1984, and all his friends got melted into the hull of a warship. And now he's lived for 9 years in the future where he doesn't belong, so it's 1993, but the evil military guys are starting to mess with time again, playing around with this super stealth fighter, and it's scrambling Brad's DNA. Although it's kind of hard to show the scrambling of DNA on the movie screen, so he just falls down a lot. Is that about it? Yep. All right, oh yeah, and his kid plays Little League. All right, back to the movie. See, when it takes them 9 years to decide whether they want to make a sequel or not, that's when you know you might have a problem. Yep. Of course, in this case, since it's a time travel movie, a sequel would actually be a prequel. So this should be called Philadelphia Experiment 0. Are you following me? You got it, right? Not too fast for you, right?
back to Monstervision host Joe Bob Briggs and the Philadelphia Experiment 2 on TNT.
All right, well, as we leave David there in the Twilight Zone running for his life, getting beaten up by jackbooted thugs, this might be the emotionally correct time for the feature we like to call Joe Bob's Jailbreak. And to help us out, we have the previously introduced TNT mail girl, the lovely Reno. Nice outfit.
Thank you.
You know, many male girls would balk at wearing the jailbreak outfit, but I can tell you're already a trooper, not you. You'll put it on for us.
What happened to those other male girls?
I don't want to talk about that.
Why?
We had a little male girl UPS situation here this summer. It got a little nasty. President Clinton refused to intervene, but it's over now, apparently, and you're the new male girl assigned to this route, right?
So you fall in love with whoever puts on these little outfits. Is that one of your weaknesses?
Who told you that? I wouldn't use the word weakness, okay?
Are you like Larry King?
You know, now you're comparing me to Larry King. The male girls used to be a little more polite.
I love Larry King.
Well, I'm sure he'd be happy to marry you.
See, precisely. If I got in line. That's my point. Right there. So,
That's your point?
Mm-hmm. Now we can go to our letter, which happens to come from a Philip Scarfodi, and he is writing to us from Ironwood State Prison.
Know it well. Blythe, California.
Blythe, California.
They write all the time.
You were there, weren't you? Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Oh, we've got visuals here.
Oh.
To Joe Bob Briggs and Honey the Mail Girl. You see, this is out of date.
Oh.
This is 2 mail girls ago already. So, all right. First of all, I like to say Monstervision, Joe Bob, and Honey are great entertainment with their dry humor, old horror, and great beauty. I am an inmate at a California prison, 31 years old, from Brooklyn, New York. Doing time is a monotonous routine, even for a year. Yet on every Friday night, see, we were on Friday back then.
Oh, okay.
I turn on Monstervision, and for one night I can laugh and be entertained. For Honey the Mail Girl, I think she is one of the hottest models I've ever seen, let alone her body. Her facial features are flawless. She is one gorgeous lady. I think she has a great future in modeling TV and movies if she hasn't already. If possible, I'd love to know a little about her. Well, if you want to know a little about her, she went to Sweden with her boyfriend Sven, if that's the kind of info you're interested in, all right? Just for the record, I made a mistake last year by forging a check. Long story. Which sent me to prison for 3 years. Just so you know, I'm not some weirdo or stalker. I'm just an Italian. Single.
Italian.
That's what he says.
Capital.
Single, 31 years old, cleaning up a mistake. If this letter is received and she possibly reads this, she'll know her beauty is appreciated. I would be honored to have a picture autographed if possible. I would love to brag to my workout buddies. Here is a picture of me in front with a couple of buddies. And there he is, Phil. There's Phil Scarfordi, and whoa, you know, look at these guys. I don't know if you can see them, but that is some serious iron pumping they do there at Ironwood. So good prison if you need to get in shape. You know, Ironwood's out in the Mojave Desert, and there are spas in the Mojave Desert that charge $3,000 or $4,000 a week to get you in shape. But you go to Ironwood, get in shape, they pay you $2 a week, and you know so. But this is very interesting, Reno, because these guys, they had their heart set on getting a photo from the mail girl 2 mail girls ago. We jacked around. We didn't answer them in time. So what do you think? You see anything there you like?
Yeah, the one in the center is really cute. I mean, I go for the muscular type, yes.
You would really, I wish you hadn't said that. All right, Phil. All right, Phil, you know, I guess you and the weight room guys are going to be getting a little gift in the mail here, you know. I always appreciate letters from Ironwood. 4,300 inmates packed into that place. And you know, Blythe, California, that's a tough place even if you're not in prison. Because no offense to the people of Blythe, but that place is way out there in the desert. That's where they check your trunk at the California-Arizona border to make sure you're not bringing any illegal ficus trees into the state.
That is not true.
It is true. They have plant police working the border. Okay. Appreciate it, guys. Remember, here at Monstervision, we love a captive audience. free your mind and your butt will follow.
Oh, that's cute.
We always say that on this show.
Oh, I've never heard it before.
Back to the movie.
Oh, well.
See, I know what he means here. I know what he means by forging a check by accident, because I've done that myself. You're writing a check, you send it off in the mail, and then you go, oh, my God, that wasn't my checkbook. That was the checkbook of a businessman in North Dakota. What was I thinking? It's a mistake.
You should go to Ironwood.
Back to Monstervision host Joe Bob Briggs and the Philadelphia Experiment 2 on TNT.
That actor who plays the deranged military leader is Garrett Graham, who's been in a jillion low-budget movies. Always does a great job. But what's funny about that scene where he's sitting there watching propaganda films and listening to classical music is that those old black and white films they're showing were actually made for the WPA in the 30s. They're not Nazi films. They're not Soviet films. They're good old American documentaries made to look sort of sinister. See, I can tell by the looks on you guys' faces, it's probably kind of late at night to be passing along cultural facts like that, isn't it? All right, let's get back to the picture, and I only have one question. What is this date thing? It's still 1993, right? It started in 1993. He got zapped to another dimension, but in this other dimension, it's still 1993. They're going to explain that, right? I doubt it. All right, roll it. See, the WPA was this agency. It was set up by President Roosevelt to give people jobs during the 30s. And if you were a writer or a filmmaker, they gave you a job writing and making movies. So we have all this crap that people wrote and produced in the 30s because the government gave them money to write it. I mean, can you imagine if we had that today? Say, oh, you're a writer? Okay, here's $1,000. Go to Nebraska and describe the trees. You know, Jesse Helms' worst nightmare. All right, I'm going to make a note. You know, do not discuss obscure federal agencies from the Depression while hosting Monstervision. I'll just rule that out in the future.
Back to Monstervision host Joe Bob Briggs and the Philadelphia Experiment 2 on TNT.
Man was not meant to play with time. Did he actually say that? So what we've got here apparently is two different 1993s operating at the same time, which actually makes sense because it solves the problem of all time travel movies, and that is that you can't go back in time without violating the first law of thermodynamics. Here, let me illustrate. If Brad Chapman in this movie is signified as a collection of molecules, M, all right? Then he can be described at any time t by 6n variables. Okay, the 6n variables would be 3 variables describing the position of each molecule because there are 3 dimensions, and 3 variables describing the momentum of each molecule. So you have position, and you have momentum. 6n, all right? Now, when Brad Chapman travels forward in time or backward in time, then the 6n variables are duplicated at some time t minus a or t plus a, all right? His molecules have disappeared at time t and have reappeared at time t minus a in precisely the same relative configuration. The only problem is this violates the first law of thermodynamics, which states that the mass energy of the universe, UE, is always constant. Therefore, an observer at rest at time t minus a relative to Brad Chapman would observe an increase in UE of mc squared joules, where m is Brad Chapman's rest mass in kilograms. And no observer can detect a violation of the first law. Therefore, the trip back through time would thus violate the first law of thermodynamics. Okay, back to the movie. What? Ask Stephen Hawking.
The Philadelphia Experiment 2 on TNT.
All right, well, the studio is still buzzing with my demonstration of why the guy in this movie cannot Go back to 1943. It's impossible. We've already proved it. You know, these time travel movies, they always burn my bacon because it's impossible. You go back in time, you shoot your grandfather, therefore you are never born, so you can't go back in time and shoot your grandfather, but then you are born, you do go back, see, it makes no sense. You try to figure out those Terminator movies, you can't. In fact, you know what? I talked about before, what I was talking about is that it violates the first law of thermodynamics, but it not only violates the first law of thermodynamics, it violates the second law of thermodynamics. And, all right, fine. I won't explain it. Fine. See, you try to make the show just a little bit educational. You maybe send the audience away learning something instead of just sitting on the couch drinking Old Milwaukee and eating Doritos. And who thanks me? All right, fine. Just go back to the movie. I don't care. I think I should explain it. You see, the second law of thermodynamics says that the entropy of the universe is always increasing. You know, that means going to hell, it's decaying, it's falling apart. So you take Brad Chapman here, you zap him back to 1943, you've reversed the entropy at that point in time. All right? That's all I'm going to say. You watch. Guys at Caltech and MIT are going to write in saying Joe Bob is correct. Caltech and MIT are universities. Jesus.
Back to Monstervision host Joe Bob Briggs and the Philadelphia Experiment 2 on TNT.
I'm not even going to comment. No. I'm humiliated. I could have used this break to explain wormholes, which is where these guys at Caltech built a model showing how you could actually travel through time. But you guys don't deserve it. I'm through for the night. And now the conclusion of Philadelphia Experiment 2. Which commits the paradox of causality, by the way. Not that anybody would be interested in this room. Admit, that was a great ending. That part in Nazi Germany didn't make sense, but once he got there, who cares? You know, the whole movie is just so they can do that one scene where he kills Mahler's father, and so Mahler evaporates. Pretty cool effects there. It's not a terrible movie. I'm just not a big fan of time travel flicks. They give me headaches. All right, enough of that. I want to remind you that next week our double feature is Alien 3 with Sigourney Weaver, followed by the frequently requested cult classic Barbarella, starring Jane Fonda. It'll be Let's See If Joe Bob Can Keep His Job night. And you can stick a fork in me, I'm done. Guy goes into a bar one day, says, "Give me 6 double vodkas." Bartender says, "Man, you must have had a bad day." Guy says, "Yeah, I just found out my older brother is gay." Next day, the same guy comes into the bar, says, "Give me 6 double vodkas." Bartender asks what the problem is. The guy says, "I just found out my younger brother is gay too." On the third day, the guy comes into the bar, he orders another 6 double vodkas. The bartender says, "Good grief, doesn't anybody in your family like women?" The guy says, "Yeah, my wife." Joe Bob Briggs reminding you that the drive-in will never die. This guy had a dog he was trying to train, but the dog wouldn't do anything. So he happens to mention to this television evangelist that he's having trouble with the dog. And the evangelist says, "No problem. Leave that dog with me. I'll have him trained in no time." So next day the man comes back and he asks the evangelist how that dog's doing. The evangelist says, "He's totally trained." And he demonstrates. He picks up a stick, throws the stick, says, "Fetch." Instantly the dog takes off, grabs the stick, trots back over. The evangelist says, "Drop." Dog drops the stick at his feet. The evangelist says, "Roll over." Dog rolls over. So the dog's owner is very excited and he asks if he can try it for himself. The evangelist says, "Sure, go ahead." So the owner says, "Heel." Dog lifts one paw, places it on the man and says, "I command this sickness to leave you." Remember back